Hi guys, and welcome to Table Tennis Shoutouts. My name's Ali Pearson from Everything Table Tennis, and today I have the great pleasure of speaking with table tennis legend Mr. Simon Heaps. And on this discussion, we are going to be talking to him about his wheelchair dream of becoming world champion and also representing England in the 2022 Commonwealth Games at Birmingham. To give people an idea who you are and what you've done over the years in table tennis, I'll leave the floor to you, as they say. So,
okay, well, basically, I started playing when I was 8 years old. I played at Reading YMCA. My dad was the coach. My sister was a senior international player, and both of my brothers played. Nick is still playing. He's my older brother, and Tim unfortunately died a few years ago, and Tim played also. Tim was a para athlete and actually competed in the Olympics in Atlanta, I think it was.
right.
So I started playing when I was 8. Very, very good club where we played at with the YMCA. All of the better players would come there. And I was probably just lucky that I came through at the right time and my dad nurtured me in the right way. I was picked to play for England juniors, I think when I was 12. I went over to Holland, played in a junior event over there. And that carried on through. I was playing juniors and I was blooded a little bit for the seniors as well. But I was European cadet champion in 1970.
Incredible.
And probably the highlight on that was that I played for the cadets and the junior team. So the cadets didn't actually have a team event, but I was in the cadet singles and I won that. But I also played for the junior team alongside Nicky Jarvis, John Dabbin played, and a couple of others. But probably the highlight of that was again in Hungary. I beat Gabor Gergely, who was European champion. I think he's won world doubles and all sorts of stuff. But he was part of the great Hungarian team of Jonya, Klampar, and Gergely.
Right.
And so I managed to beat him. That was it. I lost. Klampar also played. And then we got to 4-all, which was around about midnight, and I beat their number 3, a fella called Takash. So we beat Hungary 5-4, which was a fantastic win for us. So yeah, that was when I was 14. Carried on playing England juniors. Met up with Des Douglas. We're the same age. We won lots and lots of doubles titles together. Because he was great to play. He was not only a great singles player, but a great doubles player as well, being left-handed. And then I got to the age of 17. I was diagnosed diabetic, type 1 diabetic, when I was 13, before I won the European cadets. And if I'm totally honest, over the next 4 years, it wasn't well controlled. Certainly nobody within Table Tennis England knew anything about it and really what to do. And the medical side then was nowhere near as good as it was now.
I was going to say, it probably wasn't highlighted as much as it is now, being diabetic then, I wouldn't have thought.
So we used to go away to England training camps, and I would go to the local shop and buy 80 Mars bars, literally. And they would say, you know, how many do you want? And I'd say 80, and they'd give me 8. I said, no, 80. And I'd take these Mars bars away. And of course, to get my blood sugar levels high, I used to Mars bar, which was totally wrong.
Yeah.
was totally wrong. But of course, Des Douglas used to nick them. And it was only a couple of years later when I suddenly found out where they were all going. And Des used to go into my bag in the middle of the night and nick my Mars bars. So when you speak next, just ask him who was the player whose Mars bars he used to nick at England training camps. So I carried on playing for England juniors, and also for when I say for the seniors, basically the juniors were blooded. You know, you weren't number 1 or number 2 in England as a senior, but they were trying to bring the juniors through, so that worked well. Got to the age of 17 when juniors finished then, because they're obviously 18 now. Decided that there was no way that I was going to be in the same realms of Des and the others that were coming through, Nicky Jarvis and Paul Day. I got an opportunity to go to America and tour with the Harlem Globetrotters. So I was 17 and doing exhibitions with the Harlem Globetrotters, which was absolutely fantastic. And I was there for 9 months, and these were the years of Medal Art Lemon and Curly Neal, the famous one.
Right, yeah.
So that was absolutely fantastic. And then after, when I came back from that, I just carried on playing county table tennis. My home county is Cheshire, but I also played for Berkshire as well. Managed to get them into the Premier League with the help of the
Berkshire champion as well as Cheshire champion as well as Dorset champion.
It was actually Cheshire champion, Berkshire champion, Dorset champion, and I lost in the final of the Hampshire championships.
Oh my God!
And carried on playing until I was about mid-30s, and then decided to pack up. It was becoming harder and harder. I've been playing then for 27, 28 years, which is a long time. Training, playing. Obviously, I was not getting any better at all, so I packed up. Didn't play again until I was 60. So I packed up for 25 years. As a strange one came about, I suddenly got involved on Facebook. Never done it at all before, and as we all know, as soon as you go onto Facebook, all these names keep cropping up. And a mate of mine who I played with up in London, he came straight back. "Oh, glad you're okay. Are you still playing table tennis?" "No." And he sort of said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, I just haven't thought about it." So of course the next day, because you befriended him, one of his best friends who I used to play with, he said, here you spoke to Neil. Are you still playing? I said, "No." And then I suddenly thought, I think it was after a bottle of red wine one night. Well, it's a bit like riding a bike, you never forget.
That's
so
it.
I suddenly thought, shall I try? So I phoned up a couple of the guys in Bournemouth, and Bournemouth always had some good players. And I said, "Look, I'm thinking about coming up. Could I come along?" This is about a week before Christmas. And they said, "Yeah, of course you can." I said, "The only problem is," I said, "I've got no bat, no shoes, no kit." They said, "Don't worry about it. Just wear a pair of trainers. We'll let you borrow a bat and T-shirt. You'll be fine." So I went along to Bournemouth Sports, played there. The first 5 serves I went to do, I completely missed the ball. Suddenly realised that my eyesight was so bad, so I sent my daughter out to the car to get my glasses. And that was really where it started. After that Christmas, I thought, well, I'm going to give this a go. I borrowed a bat from my brother, got myself some shoes and some kit, and started having some lessons. Because I went to the best.
Still playing at that point? Was your brother still playing at that point?
Nick's played throughout. Nick's never stopped. Nick's never stopped. So I went to Matt Ware, who's not only the best player in Bournemouth by a long way, he's still ranked probably 12, 13, 14 in England, but would maybe be higher if he played regularly. But he's also the best coach by a long way. So I went to Matt. I thought, well, if I'm going to get the best practice and the best coaching, because the game has changed, then you've got to go to the best person. So Matt and I started on a journey then. And unfortunately, I'd set myself a target of April playing in my first tournament, which was going to be down at Bristol. But as I was playing 3 or 4 times a week and enjoying it, when the entries came out for the one up in Blackpool, it was then, which was the Northern Vets Masters, I thought, I'll enter, because it doesn't really count, because I'm not really going to be playing until the following month, but I'll just test myself out. So I got drawn in the over 60s group with the number 3 seed.
Oh my God.
And I managed to beat him 3-0 in the group. And I got through, I think.
So basically, you were a ringer then?
Well, no, I wasn't, because do you know what happened? I played my first game in the group, and I played a guy who was, probably not the best player, and I beat him 3-0. And he said, "Cool." He said, "You've played before?" I said, "Well, yeah, I've been playing for about 5 or 6 weeks." He said, "No, you must have played before that." I said, "Well, that game we've just played is the first game up to 11 I've ever played in my life. Obviously, I've been practicing the week before with Matt playing up to 11, but I'd never played with an umpire up to 11. And the second match I played was when I played the number 3 seed. So I don't think I was a ringer at all, really." Anyway, I lost about in the quarterfinals, a bit disappointed, but there was lots of faults, and I was completely knackered as well, totally unfit. So on the way home, and it's a long drive back from Blackpool to Bournemouth, I suddenly thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it properly. I need to get fitter. I need to practice properly, and a bit of dedication, because the players that you're playing in the 60s and that sort of age group, they've been playing all the way through, and they're very, very good players, but they've adapted to the game. So when I got home, I spoke to my wife and my daughter. I said, "Look, I'm going to try and give this a bit of a shot. Do you mind if I employ a trainer and stuff like that. I said, no, go for it. So I did that, and I did pretty successfully for 3 years. Beat the number 1 and number 2 in the 60s vets rankings, which I was really pleased about. Didn't win a tournament, got to 3 or 4 semi-finals, but didn't win a tournament. Won lots of doubles, because I've always enjoyed doubles, probably from my days with Des. And then the injuries started to come, so I was still trying to play like it was a 14-year-old. Still crashed up. And anyone that knows me, they know that I crash into barriers. If there's any sound in the hall, it's always me playing. So I decided to retire. And my last 2 events was I played in the Vets National Championships, and I won the doubles there with Jeff Salter. And then 3 days later, I went to Spain with a good friend of mine, John Hook, and we won an international doubles tournament over in Spain. And then I hung my bat up. So went off to America for 6 months with my wife Pauline. Got back on April the 3rd, 2019, last year. 2 weeks later, I was in hospital. My toe had gone, they call it an ulcer, but it had gone really bad. And it was pretty obvious I was going to lose my toe. And they said that they were confident that even though I'd have to have my toe amputated, that everything else would be okay. 6 weeks later, when I came out of hospital with 1 leg, that wasn't the case.
I mean, God, Simon, that must have been such a shock. I mean, you know, bad enough that you got to lose your toe, all right, you could probably sort of, you know, get that in your head and think, well, okay, I've lost a toe. You know, I've lost a toe. But you can even with that, you can think, well, I can still sort of get by okay, sort of thing.
Well, funny enough, when they said you're going to lose your toe, I've heard lots before that if you lose certain toes, you lose your balance a lot. And I asked them with the toe that I was losing, which was next.
You lose your big toe, you lose the balance.
Big toe, but it was the one next to my big toe, and they said, no, you should be fine. But unfortunately, the disease in the bone, they cut out as much as they could. But I've got poor circulation in my legs, very poor circulation, so I've got big vascular problems. And they said finally, after doing all the various different things, I'm sorry, it's now plan B. And all I said was when. They said tomorrow. So I knew it was no shock to myself and my wife. We knew that was probably what was going to happen. You know, they were clutching at straws trying to save it. So that didn't come as a shock. Losing the toe wasn't a shock, but the sort of 4 or 5 weeks in between, you just knew the worst was probably going to happen, because you're in a ward with people that come in with 2 legs and go off with 1, or they come in with 1 leg and go off with none, or you get people that, you know, are there and you know darn well that they're going to be losing their legs, same as I lost mine. So that wasn't brilliant, but it didn't really come as a shock. So while I was in hospital, I suddenly thought, do you know what? All of the problems I had when I was playing, which was my legs and movement, I don't have to worry about that anymore. If I play in a wheelchair, I've still got it up here. I've still got, you know, I still think I can play. Why can't I adapt and play in a wheelchair? So I actually joined the GB Para Association from my hospital bed. I was actually in hospital when I sent off my 15 or 20 quid or whatever it was. I also then contacted a friend of mine of a charity that I used to help raise some money for. I said, could they possibly assist me in getting a specialist wheelchair? Because you can't play table tennis in an NHS wheelchair. And they said yes. They said, go and source one. I said, well, I've actually found one. And I've got a chair which I believe was actually used in the Rio Olympics by one of the English guys who's number 1. And as luck would have it, it was the right size, because they pretty much have to be custom fit for you. So, I had that delivered on the Thursday, and that was about 10 days after I came out of hospital. And then that night, I was actually playing for the first time in a wheelchair.
That's incredible.
So it happened pretty quickly. I've played in 3 wheelchair events, 2 of them in England, the GB Para Run events. I played in 2 of those, and out of 4 singles events, I've had 3 silver medals and a 3rd place.
Wow.
And then I managed to represent Great Britain in Costa Rica last December, which was great honour for me. But the biggest test for me there was not the playing, but you have to have a classification. Now, a lot of amputees in para table tennis have to play in the standing class. But with me, with my left leg being worse than my right leg was, that they've chopped off, all of my doctors, surgeons, and everybody said under no circumstances is he to play on that leg, because it will put more trauma on it, and just one slight nick or cut, and he'll end up losing the other leg. Now, the statistics, without even playing table tennis, are that 50% of all amputees will lose their other leg within 5 years. That's national statistics. So it was so important that I don't play with a prosthetic leg. So I went for this classification, which was probably about 2 hours, and you have two examiners there. You have a medical and a technical. So the medical, and you have to take all of your notes with you, from the doctors and surgeons and everything, all the medication you're on and why you're on it. And the technical guy will play on the table with you and see how mobile you are, or in my case, how immobile that you're not. And the medical people will ask you different questions, and then they will do things like dropping the ball on the floor. Can you pick it up? Can you do this? Do you fall out of your chair? And I came out after 2 hours, and I said, what's the verdict? They said, 100% classification, you're class 5. That's an these are ITTF examiners. They go to every para tournament that's going for new people to be classified. And they said, yeah, you can now play not only in this tournament, but you can play in any tournaments around the world. Now, it was also possible, and I knew that I could have gone there, and they said, I'm very sorry, Simon, but in our opinion, you've got to play as a class 6 or 7, which is with the likes of David Van Wetherell and Will Bailey.
I'm not fully aware of all that. I mean, it's something that I haven't really known a lot about, the whole para table tennis side of things. I mean, was it something that you were really aware about at the time, or was it something that you then just became aware about? Because
the classification, or
all of it really.
Not really. I thought if I was initially, and I'm being totally naive, I thought if I was in a wheelchair, then that's fine, you can play.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
I knew that you had different classes, because obviously the class 1 are sort of tetraplegics and that sort of thing.
Right.
And as you go up to class 5, you are less disabled, but you're still disabled. My hardest thing was that because I was an amputee, I should actually be playing in the standing class. But because of the problems with my left leg, it's impossible for me to play in a standing class. And they actually said that a couple of my other ailments, if they get worse, I'd probably be classified as a class 4 rather than a class 5.
So how does it actually work with the classes then? So just so that I understand.
The most disabled is the lower number. So you have two classifications. You have wheelchair class, which is 1 to 5, and then you have standing, which is 6 to 10, and then I think 11 is for disabilities that you can't see. It might be mental, trouble with learning, that sort of thing. But basically, you've got 10 general classes. So 1 to 5 is in wheelchairs, 1 is being the most disabled, 5 is being the least disabled, and then you have 6 to 10. 6, which is people like Will Bailey. I think Will's 7 now, isn't he?
I think he is. Yeah.
I think he's 7, but he's been 6 before. So they are the least disabled. The most disabled, and then class 10 is sometimes you can't even see what the disabilities are, and their standard is unbelievable. I mean, all para athletes, it's unbelievable, but the class 10 guys are really good.
Yeah, because I've seen a bit of the Paralympics, and you see him play, and you think, well, he looks really good. There doesn't look a lot wrong with him, So that's probably where maybe a lot of people don't. I mean, I certainly I was a bit ignorant to it, to be fair, and I'll hold my hands up to that, because you don't tend to really look into it. And it was only since just recently, really, that I started looking into the whole para table tennis side of things. I mean, we had Will Bailey on our Balls and All show and stuff like that, and and like I said, I was a little bit embarrassed because I didn't really know an awful lot about it, and I felt that I should have done. And I've been on a few sites just to sort of try and find out a little bit more, really. And obviously, you know, we've chatted before as well and stuff. And
A lot of the para athletes, you can actually see what the disability is. So in class 6, there's a guy from Scotland called Martin Perry, and Martin has got two, for want of a better term, two half arms, and he's only got one leg, so he plays with a prosthetic leg. Because that's the class he's been put in. He couldn't play in a wheelchair because they say, you know, you're an amputee, but you're good enough. Your disability doesn't affect you playing on your good leg with a prosthetic leg. Yes. So he's as a class 6. Will, I think, is class 7. And when I first saw Will play the first few times, I couldn't even see what his disability was. I saw he was sort of limping a bit and maybe not moving so freely. But as we all know now, he's got the problems with his ankles and his feet, which he's had from birth. But then as you go up to the class, you know, 9s and 10s, I then asked some of those guys what their disability is, because you can't readily see it, but they all have to be classified, because otherwise it would be open to, you know, people turning up for tournaments and saying, oh, I've got a bad leg, you know, I can't play. You know, if you say like got a heart defect, that's not a disability.
No.
You actually have to have a physical disability. And as I say, when I went for my classification, I knew it was a good chance that they might say, I'm sorry, you know, you're going to have to play in a standing class. And if they'd have said that, that was me finished.
Well, that would have been you finished, wouldn't it then?
Yeah, I couldn't have played. It was too much risk, you know, for myself and my family, and, you know, with health and everything.
So do you have to do any, obviously you've been doing loads of coaching and stuff now, haven't you, for
being coached? I was a coach for the last 3-4 years. I was level 2 coached. I used to spend, instead of practicing, I was spending all my time with the kids doing that, which I really enjoyed. But now it's a bit of my time at the age of I'm 65 in 2 weeks' time. It's a bit of my time now, and you know, I might do a bit of coaching later on, but at the moment this is my time because the clock's ticking. I'm not getting any younger.
No, and like I say, I mean, and it's what you're trying to do is this is like your next dream, really, isn't it? I mean, this is your dream now. I've
got a dream. It's a realistic dream. Whether it happens or not, it won't be for lack of trying. But I'm going to try and get in the Commonwealth Para Games team in Birmingham in 2022. I know exactly what the criteria is to do that, and I think that's achievable. But I can't do it without 2 things. One is three things. One is without a lot of hard work. The second is finance, and the third is support from my family. The finance is the hardest thing, because the only way you can get on world ranking is by going to international events. You can't get world ranking points playing in the UK. So I can play in tournaments all over the UK, para tournaments, able-bodied tournaments. It counts for nothing. You have to play in an ITTF sanctioned event and you get world ranking points. I've got some world ranking points already from when I went to Costa Rica. They just don't show yet because I've only played in the one event, and you actually need to have another event.
How many points are you looking to try? Where's your, you know, your gauge where you've got to try and get to?
Well, basically you've got to be one of the top Commonwealth players in the world.
Right. Okay.
So the top 8 Commonwealth players in the world. But also you're only allowed to have 2 entries from any country. So you could actually have 3 players from England that are 1, 2, and 3 in world rankings in the Commonwealth, and only 2 of them would get selected.
I see. Blimey.
So you can obviously see where my target is, that I have to be one of those 2, and also I have to be one of the top 8 in the Commonwealth at least.
At least. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a massive target, isn't it?
Yes, but it's a target, and if you don't have a target, then you know it's not worth getting up in the morning for.
No, exactly that. So financially wise, then, so you need the finance mainly to be able to go to these other tournaments to get the rankings. to get the points for the rankings to
Yep.
get you up there.
Yes.
And so how many of those do you think you're going to have to do, do you think, roughly?
Well, basically, I don't know. A lot depends on how well I can improve.
Okay.
And it's like anything else. You go chasing the points,
Yeah.
same as you would do in England, just on ordinary rankings. But likewise, if you go to somewhere and you play badly and you lose points.
Yeah.
But at the moment, because I'm starting at the bottom, any win I get, I'm going to get points for. When I went to Costa Rica, I beat the world number 13 he was then in the team event. Now he's in a different class, but you still get points for that.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm sort of there or thereabouts, maybe in the top 40 or 50 in the world. I'm lucky enough, I've just been accepted to play for a team over in the German Bundesliga. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go, but I've got a place at a club over there which will give me experience. Again, you get no points for it, but I'll get valuable experience playing against other people in wheelchairs, because they've got they've got more than one wheelchair league over there.
Have they?
Well, there's only 2 countries. I think Austria and Germany are the only 2 countries in Europe with wheelchair leagues.
Wow, even that is incredible, really, isn't it? I mean, so
Yeah.
we haven't got one in the UK then.
No, not at all. And to be honest, there aren't enough players, certainly not enough players probably of the high enough quality to sustain some really good matches.
Okay.
I mean, there are wheelchair players, and you could probably muster up six or 8 teams, but the standard probably wouldn't be as high as it certainly wouldn't be as high as it would be in Germany. In Germany, they've got players coming in from different countries playing for the top clubs.
And has that been going for quite a while, that sort of thing?
I'm not sure, but I think for a number, yes, it has, certainly. I know in Germany it's been going, I've certainly seen on the archives, it's been going for the last 7 or 8 years at least.
Oh, right.
But those are countries which are very much for their para athletes. Not that GB aren't, but they've looked at table tennis, and they've now got youngsters coming through on a conveyor belt to play in para events for them. And when they've had 6, 7, 8 years training, they're then ready to play in the Olympics and European Championships.
Yeah, sounds to me as though they're sort of geared right up for it.
But that's certainly something that the GB Para are doing. I think they're just about to launch an initiative now called Futures, where they're going to go to every club in the country and say, look, if you can do some sort of recruitment program for disabled youngsters. This isn't just for wheelchair players, but these are for the standing classes as well. We can then pull those players from your club, and we'll put them through a pathway to try and get them up to international standard. And that's something they're just about to launch.
That's directly from GB are doing that, yeah?
The problem I have is I think the nearest wheelchair player I've got, certainly there wouldn't be anybody within a 100-mile radius. None. So I've played in 3 events. I've been to a few training camps where there's been wheelchair players, and the only other play I get against wheelchair players is against my coach, and he plays against me probably about 70% of the time in a chair.
Wow.
So without that, I'd be going from tournament to tournament without any practice, and it is totally different.
Is it really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Is it? I mean, does the ball get played in different places? I mean, is it that different? Is it?
Yeah. It's very, very tactical, because if you're in a chair, you're going to get tucked up underneath your arm. So that's the obvious one, to try and catch people in a crossover point. But against an able-bodied athlete, that crossover point is moving all the time. That you're trying to get it underneath the playing arm. Well, in wheelchair table tennis, you're pretty much stuck at the end of the table. You can move, but you're pretty much stuck there. So they're trying to play the ball down the middle or just to one side to tuck you up there, so you can't twist and play.
And then maybe wide or something.
And then play you wide, play you short. You're actually allowed to do what they call the tetra shot, where you make the ball hit the table and then come back over the net. That's common, especially in the lower classes, because they're less mobile, the tetra people, hence the name. So you'll serve to them and they'll just flick it up and it will hit the table and come straight back over the net. And that's totally legal. You know, the first time I saw it, I thought it's got to be unfair, but no, it's totally legal.
Wow. So, service-wise, is it? How does that work with serves and stuff like that?
Service is the only real rule that you have. So if I play an able-bodied athlete or a disabled athlete, you have to serve down the parallels. So you cannot serve off the side of the table. If you serve off the side of the table, it's a let, so you don't lose the point.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that every serve you do must, if it was left to bounce 20 times, roll off the end of the table. So you can't do a serve that spins back into the net, and you can't do a serve that would stay on the table.
So it has to come off the end of the table.
If I left it and I thought that's not going to go off the end of the table, I'm going to get a let, and it actually rolled off the end, the server would get the point.
Ah, I see.
And those are the only rules in wheelchair table tennis. After that, you can do what you want. You can put the ball wide, you can put the ball short, you can make the ball come back over the net. Whatever you want, you can do it. It's just on that service law.
So it obviously there's backspin serves and topspin serves. Still, it's all still the same because.
Yes, but you would generally do a long backspin serve.
Yeah.
If you did a short backspin serve and it stayed on the table, it would defeat the object, because if they left it, it'd just be a let every time, and you could do it 10 times, it'd just be a let.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
The art sometimes is to try and make them play it rather than leave it.
It'll probably bounce on the table.
A bit like a half-long serve, which is exactly what you're trying to do. You know, is the ball going to bounce twice, or do I loop it, let it drop off the end of the table? So it's a bit cat and mouse.
Yeah, bloody sounds it. So, okay then. So you've still got a fair few tournaments to get through. It sounds like, you know, you're right up there. You know, from the players that you've already played against and beaten as well. So you know you're right.
I've beaten a few, not very many, because I haven't played lots, but I'm there or thereabouts. But there's always room for improvement. Next tournament for me, and I just heard yesterday it's been confirmed. All the ITTF tournaments have been cancelled up till the new year, but I'm playing in a tournament called the IWAS World Games, which is the International Wheelchair Amputees Sports Federation. Now that's a little bit different from para table tennis. This time, that if you play in a wheelchair, you've got to be an amputee. Right. And as I've already said, most amputees play in a standing class. Then I'm playing in that. It's already been postponed twice this year. It's in Thailand, but it's now going to be held between the 10th and the 17th of December. Has to be totally self-funded. That alone is going to cost me about $2,500. I'll be going out there. There's 10 different sports. I think if it's the same entry as it was due to be for April, 3,500 athletes from 35 countries. And do you know how many are due to go from Great Britain?
No.
Me.
Really? Yeah.
Well, if it's the same entry as it was for February and April, which were both cancelled, I was the only GB athlete. So literally, I would be carrying the flag. There won't be anyone behind me. I'll just be carrying the flag.
Wow.
So that's quite daunting, but I've got again a realistic chance of being world champion. But that's for wheelchair amputees, which is a little bit different.
Still not bad.
But it'll still be a great honour. Yeah.
Good, yeah. So, with sponsorship wise, then, so what do you do then? How do you go about it for yourselves? What are you trying to do, or who are you trying to see, or?
I've gone to lots of charities. Unfortunately, nearly all of the funding they've got is for young athletes, which annoys me, because I'm young at mind, I'm young at heart, I'm just not physically young. So I'm being victimised. Victimised is probably not the right word, but I'm certainly got knocked back by those. I was lucky enough to get some sponsorship from 2 charities. One, who probably a lot of your listeners will know, is the Douglas Bader Foundation. And Douglas Bader was the guy that lost both his legs, and he was a pilot. They've supported me last year. And also there's another charity called the Sports Foundation for the Disabled. They funded me some money as well. Outside of that, I've done a GoFundMe page, which is a form of crowdfunding, and I've been able to raise money from that. But my main costs are travel and accommodation, especially abroad. Thailand was about 2,300. Sorry, Thailand's going to be about 2,500. Costa Rica cost me about 2,300. Coaching, I'm doing 3 sessions a week with my coach, So, you know, you can work out for yourself that is very, very expensive, and that's been ongoing since last July when I started with him. You've then got your travel, your domestic competitions, the leagues you play in, subscriptions and everything. I think if I was to get to Birmingham in 2022, I need to raise about 20,000. And that might seem a lot of money, but if you take those international events at, you know, say even at £2,000 a time, if you played in three of those a year, that's 6,000.
Yes, exactly.
Plus your coaching and everything else, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a lot of money. But if you can get that, you know, I mean, if you can get there, you know, you've got a chance, haven't you? I mean, it's
I believe I've got a chance, otherwise I wouldn't do it. What I would say is that GB Para themselves do fund their athletes, but they have what they call a performance squad, and the performance squad is based on the Olympic Games. And I think they've got 16, maybe 18 athletes that are at Sheffield that play there full time, and they get all of their funding paid for them for international events, you know, all sorts of stuff. But because I'm a latecomer to it, there was never a chance of me going to Tokyo anyway. So therefore, you know, I'm not in a performance squad, and I wouldn't expect to be in a performance squad. All I'm just saying is that they get theirs funded. I get no funding at all at present.
yeah, because I was going to say that. Do they fund, like, you know, their athletes and that? Because
oh yes, they do. Yeah. I mean, they get money from Sport England and you know, all sorts of stuff like that. And they're very successful at it as well. I mean, they've got a target this year to do better than they did in 2016. And from when I see the guys practicing and the girls as well, they stand a very, very good chance of doing that. But a lot of these other nations, they up their game as well. I mean, they get funded. That, you know, they've got full-time centres. But the GB Para setup is excellent at Sheffield. So that's where Will trains a lot of the time, as do Ross Wilson, Billy Shilton, all of those guys.
Wow. So basically, what you've got at the moment is the GoFund page.
Yeah.
And what other stuff on Facebook you've got? You've got your normal page and stuff like that, have you?
I've just set up a page which I probably need to speak to you about, probably off air as such, and then see what we can do for that. But it's I'm also going to do a 24-hour marathon, by the way. That was cancelled in April, but I'm going to be doing that probably in half term at the end of October. And we're going to be playing for 24 hours or as long as we can. We're going to have various coaches there. People like Carl Preen said he'll come along. Matt's going to do some sessions. Hannah Hicks, who was Commonwealth Games player for England, she's going to come along and donate some of her time. We're going to have a lot of the youngsters from Dorset that are going to come. I think I invited yourself to come along as well. So we're going to put everything on. We'll have music, we'll have food. Obviously, you know, if we're still in the COVID situation, which we will be, it'll be a safe environment with that. And if the school allows to, we're going to do that in October half term.
That's cool.
And that will be to try and raise funds for myself. But, you know, how successful that is, I don't know, but that will only be a small amount to help me try and get to Birmingham. So I'm really, what I haven't got is I haven't got a corporate sponsor. I've not got a corporate sponsor. You know, if someone was to give me even £5,000 a year for 3 years, that would go a long, long way to get me to that £20,000 target.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like I say, you've got something then. I think as well, it must be a worry as well for you, because, I mean, it's a worry for yourself because you're trying to train and you're trying to get all your coaching done and sort everything out, and then to sort of have that in the background as well, that you've got to sort of try and worry about that.
The money will run out. There's no question about that. And if it does, then I'm stymied, because it is very expensive. And the better you get, the more of these events you need to play in, the higher the cost is. I think for in Thailand, the entry alone was £200.
Wow.
The travel initially was just over 1,000. So that's £1,200, and then I had another £1,200 for accommodation when I'm there. Now, when I go in December, it may be that the flights are even more expensive because you're getting nearer Christmas. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to get my money back from the first set of cancelled flights.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you're probably waiting about a year for that.
But yeah, you're dead right. If I don't get the money, that even now I'm suddenly thinking, blimey, another 3 months of coaching and one more tournament, and then you're virtually done. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
if there's a corporate sponsor out there,
yes, there is a corporate sponsor out there who can help.
well,
Simon.
the para athletics of all sports is absolutely out in the forefront now.
Yes.
You'll get the viewers when the Olympics are on watching the para events, not just table tennis. The figures will be massive. The stadiums will be absolutely full. There are lots of big name sponsors that I think Sainsbury's did the para people a few years ago. It's a very, very big part of sport now is para sport.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, let's see if we can get you somebody to give you a load of money.
Well, that would be fantastic. I mean, to me, sponsorship's always a two-way thing. So yes, it's great getting the money, but it's what they can get out of it and what I can give them. It might be a company that is involved in disability. It could be someone that's involved with older people. I'm 65 in 2 weeks' time. If I get to the Commonwealth Games, and it's a massive if, a lot of hard work in between, I'll be only a few days short of my 67th birthday. Now, that is, I probably wouldn't be the oldest person ever to play in the Commonwealth, but it will be pretty damn close. It'd certainly be the oldest table tennis player by a long way. And when I was in Costa Rica, I was 40 years older than the next oldest person in the GB team that travelled.
Wow. Blimey heck.
Yeah. But it doesn't worry me because I'm young at heart. So, I haven't got the legs of a 20-year-old, but I've got a bit of experience up there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it's amazing. So, well, what we're going to do, we're going to put the links for the GoFund page on this recording that we're doing now, and we'll put it all over, my everything table tennis on my shout out page and stuff. And I think I really look forward to actually coming down in October and having a go with that marathon thing, and maybe, I don't know, do some videos of it all and stuff.
So we're going to do lots of fun things there. We're actually going to get people playing in wheelchairs as well, and just see how hard it is for them. That'll be interesting to do that.
Let alone on a
we're going to do lots of fun games as well, because 24 hours is a long time.
It is,
so by having a couple of hours coaching from 2 or 3 coaches that will go through, not everybody will play through the night, but I'm going to be doing that. As I say, we'll have music there, we'll have food there. You have to play 55 minutes out of every hour, so you can take a comfort break, or even just crash, close your eyes for 5 minutes to get your breath back, all sorts of stuff like that. But it's all going to be done properly.
I think it'd be really good. I think it'd be really good. I'm quite looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. And hopefully we can meet up before then somewhere.
Well, yeah, I'll have to come down and have a knock with you, but I mean, you'll probably knock me off the table.
Where's home for you?
Well, I'm only up the road from you anyway. I'm up in Wiltshire, so I'm not too far away.
Yeah. Well, if you've got a venue up there, I'll come up there for the day by all means.
Yeah, we'll do some recordings.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if you saw some of the ones that were on from last week with.
I did. That
11-year-old Sophie. Yeah.
Did amazing.
She's an unbelievable talent. I was just sparring for her because she's going off, I think, to Slovakia on Friday to play in some international camp or event. So I was just doing some sparring for her, really. But yeah, 11 years old. I mean, she's been playing for quite some years, but she is so good. And it's just a shame that she's going to be playing for Hungary as opposed to playing for England.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what you're doing, and it's incredible what you've done previously and what you're doing now and your dream and everything. So I mean, you've definitely got everything table tennis is full.
Just one last one. I've got a motto.
Go on, Em.
Dream it,
Yeah,
believe it, achieve it.
there you go. And we'll end on that note.
Okay, Ali, thanks for your time.
No worries.
Take care, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank
Cheers.
you. Okay, so you've met Simon. You've listened to what he had to say. So you know you can all realise the enormous task that Simon's got to try and reach his dream. So basically, this is just a big a shout out to anybody out there who will be able to help Simon in any way whatsoever, whether it be on his funding page, or also, you know, ideally, you know, a sponsor or corporate sponsor that can help Simon. You know, he's basically going to need around £20,000 for him. You know, you've heard what the costs are for him. He's got to basically self-fund everything, and your help will be absolutely massive. So please, if anybody out there can help Simon, just click on the links, go to his GoFund page, contact me, contact him directly, and let's see if we can get Simon to his dream. Thank you very much.